Now that the budget's buzz is over, everyone is talking about what will happen in the new direct tax code. So if you have not heard of direct tax code, in budget 2025, our finance minister said this.
I also propose to introduce the new income tax bill next week.
Yes. So today, on 7th of Feb, the direct tax code or the DTC has been placed to the cabinet for its approval. And once it's approved, it will be placed to Lok Sabha on Monday, which is on, I think, 10th of Feb. So in this video, we are going to discuss how the direct tax code will change the entire environment of direct taxes in India and how is it going to affect people like you and me. So let's find it out. So we are going to discuss everything in this video. So stay till the end and let's see what will happen once DTC comes into picture. Back in 2009, the Indian government introduced the direct tax code.
5 दशक पुराना इनकम टैक्स एक्ट बदलने जा रहा है, ये बहुत बड़ी बात है। तो क्यों इसकी जरूरत पड़ी बदलाव?
इनकम टैक्स एक्ट 1961 में बना, तब से लगभग 50 बार हर साल बजट आता, उस बजट में डिफरेंट चेंजेस होते हैं, तो उससे हर साल चेंजेस होते होते 50 बार लगभग वो चेंज हो चुका
जी।
तो उसमें बहुत सारे एक्सप्लेनेशंस, प्रोविजोज, उन सारी चीजें अमेंडमेंट्स हुई हैं। उसके बाद में डिफरेंट कोर्ट केसेस इस दौरान हुए, उनके कारण भी बहुत सारे चेंजेस करने पड़ते हैं सरकार को। बहुत सी एनोमलीज रहती हैं, आपस में कुछ डिफरेंसेस होते हैं सरकार में और जनता के बीच में, डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियंस। उन सब के चलते अब एक ये जरूरी हो गया था कि इसको हर साल अमेंडमेंट करने की बजाय इतना ज्यादा बल्कि और कंफ्यूजिंग हो गया था कि उसको एक अलग से इनकम टैक्स एक्ट बना दिया जाए, तो उनको उन्होंने नाम डायरेक्ट टैक्स कोड दिया है।
So it is not new. It was introduced back in 2009 also. And there was only one aim to introduce this code, which was to simplify our complex income tax laws which is there. It promised to remove ambiguities, reduce litigations, and make taxes easier for everyone. It sounds great, right? But guess what? It never got implemented. So if it was so great, why didn't it get implemented? And why was it scrapped? One major reason was the transition difficulties. The shift from existing Income Tax Act of 1961 to a completely new framework was seen as too destructive. Also, various stakeholders like corporates, tax professionals, and policymakers had various different opinions on exemptions, tax slabs, compliance mechanisms, etc. So, even though the new direct tax code in 2009 promised to simplify the life of the taxpayer and to the people like us, but still, it was very difficult to be interpreted and many people opposed it. Now, fast forward to today. We are hearing about a new income tax bill again, but this time there is a big difference. What is the difference? Unlike the 2009 proposal, this particular bill or this particular code will not replace the Income Tax Act 1961. Instead, it aims to streamline and simplify it while keeping the core structure of the Income Tax Act intact. So you know what Finance Secretary Mr. Tuhin Kanta Pandey said? He has assured that there won't be any new taxes or any additional burden upon us. It's just better, clearer and easy to understand tax system. So that's what their endeavor is and that's what they are going to achieve using this direct tax code. But what will be there in the direct tax code? Let's break it down step by step. Over the last 6 decades or 60 years, the Income Tax Act has become a maze. Multiple amendment, cross-referencing between the sections, and redundant provisions which made it harder and harder for common people like you and me to understand the provisions which are there. So that's the reason this code is getting implemented. So here are some of the key challenges with the current tax structure and how the new bill aims to fix them. Number one, complicated language. Right now, if you'll pick up any of the provisions in the Income Tax Act, it's long, it's lengthy, and its legal language makes interpretation difficult. Like say for instance in section 80IA, which provides deductions for infrastructure businesses. But if you will read the act, it is written in such a complex way, it makes it very difficult for an ordinary taxpayer to understand it without getting the help of a lawyer or a CA. So the new bill aims to use simpler sentences and straightforward wording to ensure easy understanding for everyone. Second, too many cross references. Some sections in the current act refers to other sections, which makes it very, very difficult to read, and it is a nightmare for a common person. Like for example in section 50C, which contains the provision of capital gains on property. Now that particular section refers to section 43CA, which then again refers to section 56 to subsection 10. Now it becomes very, very difficult for a common taxpayer to refer all of these sections together. So the new bill is expected to minimize excessive cross-referencing and provide a clear standalone section that if you're reading a particular section, you don't need to reference it to other sections. That's how a law should be made. And that is why this code is going to be implemented soon. Third is overlapping provisions. There are multiple sections in the current Income Tax Act which deals with similar issues, which eventually leads to confusion. Like for example, TDS provision under section 192, 194C, 194J. 192 is basically salary, 94C is for contractors, 194J is for professionals. All of these sections sometimes apply to the same transaction, and that causes uncertainty, and eventually the debate opens that whether TDS should be deducted under which of these sections. So government is expected to consolidate or clarify these overlapping provisions for better clarity using the direct tax code. Fourth, unnecessary complexities. So in the current Income Tax Act, determining residential status and capital gain is far more complex than it needs to be. For example, the residential status of an individual is currently divided into three categories if you are aware. First is resident, resident but not ordinary resident, and third is non-resident. Again, each has a different tax implications. So it has been proposed to simplify all of these provisions, and the proposal is to reduce this to just two categories. First is resident, second is non-resident, which will make it easier for taxpayers to determine their residential status. Fifth, different financial and assessment years. It is very difficult for a common man to differentiate between financial year and assessment year. Like say for instance, a taxpayer earns income in the financial year, which is April to March, but he pays tax in the next year, which is the assessment year. Now this leads to confusion, and I've seen my clients that when they pay their income tax for a particular financial year, they often get confused between financial year and assessment year. So using this code, the government may propose a more intuitive way of linking tax filing with the year of income generation to reduce the confusion. Let's see what happens. So in order to fix all of these issues which I've just listed it to you, the new bill focuses on strengthening the three pillars. First is simplification. As I have said that the language of the law needs to be clearer with shorter sentences and fewer legal jargons. Second is reducing compliance burden. So any taxpayer, once this law and everything is simplified and the compliances are reduced, it will be very easier for a taxpayer to file their returns without actually taking professionals' help like lawyers and CAs. Third pillar is minimizing litigations. So if there are more clarity in laws, it will lead to fewer disputes, which will eventually lead to fewer litigation costs or fewer mental hassle, which right now every taxpayer has to go through it. Moreover, officials claim that the new bill will be 50% shorter than the current Income Tax Act. Yes, imagine a tax law that is easier to read and understand, something that is meant for citizens and not just for lawyers and CAs. But every coin has two sides. So many skeptics are arguing that we have heard these similar promises before and nothing has been implemented. In 2009 also, when DTC was planned to be implemented, it also aimed to rationalize tax rates and remove ambiguity. But many of its recommendations were absorbed into the existing tax system instead of becoming a separate code or a separate act altogether. Like for example, the introduction of the new versus old tax regime was inspired by the DTC's proposal to remove exemptions while lowering the tax rate. And now the same concept has been introduced in the current Income Tax Act. So the main question again still remains is whether the new bill will bring meaningful change or it is just another bureaucratic exercise. The answer depends on implementation. If the government genuinely simplifies tax laws without adding hidden complexities, this could be a game changer for taxpayers. As I have said at the beginning of the video, the Union Cabinet is set to approve the bill today, which is 7th Feb. Right now it's 7:36 p.m. when I'm shooting this video. So right now it has not yet been approved, and once it's approved today, It will be placed to Lok Sabha on Monday, which is 10th Feb. And if this bill is passed, this bill could define how we pay taxes for decades to come. So this is the importance of this particular direct tax code. So what do you think? Will this new code make your life easier? Or will it become just another change that confuses the taxpayer even more? Drop in your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear them. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more such financial insights. This is Rajat signing off.